So this building before was a kindergarten for about 30 some years, and it was abandoned for about 10 years before I found it. But I saw the roof initially, which is this beautiful A-frame, and just saw the potential immediately for a cinema. I wanted the films to be something that anyone could really enjoy, especially for these families that they may have sent their kids to this kindergarten in the past. So I wanted it to be a place where they could come and experience the building again in a new way. These are Kinetone 35 millimeter projectors. The projectors themselves I just installed recently and still need some maintenance to putting the film through the different heads on the projector. Bring it on through, and the film has the lamp house here that projects the light through the film and onto the screen. Down here there is a reader for the soundtrack. That's how you get the sound, is actually printed on the side of the film strip. This is actually just an old spare reel, so it's kind of a junk film from my old theater in Detroit. But in general, it was a pretty intensive process getting the fire department's approval to open. And then there's specific regulations in terms of how much airflow can go through the theater to make sure it's constantly refreshing for the guests inside. There's a button right outside this door, so if there's a fire, patron or myself can hit the button, and then the entire projection system shuts down, the sound cuts, and then the lights go up and everyone can exit safely. So that is, you want to hold the film? It's too heavy?
It's a little bit heavy.
One of the earliest films I saw as a child, maybe when I was 3, was The Snowman, the Raymond Briggs animated film. And I was like mesmerized with that as a kid. I'd watch it like 100 times a year. And of course, I had my first job at the small 3-screen independent theater in Michigan, and worked my way up from the usher to immediately I was obsessed with the projection booth. So I started learning about projection at that point, how to work with film. Every Thursday night I would go and they would teach me how to build the big old 35 millimeter film prints. That was really kind of the catalyst for them wanting to start my own theater in Detroit. And kind of that thread has continued until now. Usually I get in the morning around 9 o'clock, get everything set up, pop the popcorn, get the coffee going. And right now I usually have screenings going from around 10 in the morning all the way until 8 at night. And depending on the film, like tonight I have Inland Empire playing, so that's like a 3-hour Lynchian epic. And so I'll be here till 11. Popping in and out to pick up the kids from school and trying to get food where I can, usually at 7-Eleven. It's the closest place. So when I first came to this space, this whole grounds was completely overgrown and rusted. Even these gates were completely rusted over. And you couldn't even walk up to the front of the school because it was so overgrown with weeds. I was able to get this as well for the parking lot, which in Japan is a must-have, since especially out here in the countryside, a lot of people need to drive over here, and it can be very hard finding parking. But before, this spot was actually industrial storage zone for a construction company, and you could not see those houses or anything over there because it was piled so high with waste from the construction company, and it was awful looking. I was really like, do I want to rent this place? People are going to come up and then just look at this trash pit next to it. But luckily, they ended up ending their lease, and it was cleared out as I was walking up here and looking at the school. I was able to negotiate both pieces of land in my rental agreement, but it's a beautiful piece of land now that's all cleared out. This ground here was completely covered in vines. You couldn't even walk in this direction over here. The cement area that's going to be our patio was unrecognizable before. And the roof of the school itself was so badly covered in rust. When I talked to the roofing expert, they said maybe it had an extra 6 months to go before it would be a complete redo of the roof. But I got in there soon enough where we were able to treat the spots and then paint over it and save the roof, which was really lucky for us. And one of the things I love most about it, and I thought immediately when I saw this building for the first time, was the clock tower, and turning that from a clock, which it was originally, into a film reel. So that's a 16 millimeter film reel from the US that I put up there, and then behind are hue lights, so they change colors, and at night it shines brightly as a beacon for film lovers. Over here too, this was a feature that I really enjoyed when I first saw it, was the old wash basin for the kids. And so the kids would come up, wash their hands, and at the bottom, a whole sprinkler system comes under the mouth of the face. And there's also the old playground equipment, which I decided to leave completely as is. I painted this one and cleaned up a lot of rust on it, and I'm going to be adding new swings soon as well. It was really important to me that this was open to the community as it had been in the past, so families can bring their kids, because there's not too many playgrounds around anymore out here. Maybe the mom will go in and watch a movie and dad hangs out outside with the kids and lets them play, which I think is a really special experience for people. For the most part, the outside was in decent condition, but inside, on the other hand, that was a different story. There was leaks from the roof and leaks underneath the school from behind the building that had created such a moisture buildup that all the floors had rotted out and were caved in. I went through and had to pull out all the floors, all the walls. After we took everything out from the inside, began the renovation phase. And that I had a carpenter putting in the woodwork, but I helped put up all the plasterboard, all the puttying of the plasterboards, the painting, and choosing of the colors and everything else, of course. So I would have a full sense of the entire construction. Oh, that's the rapid line that comes out. Doesn't stop in Uenohara, sadly. It used to, apparently, like 4 years ago, and it stopped. I'm originally from the Detroit area. I was working for Netflix for about 3 years in Japan, traveling a lot to other countries, to India, Korea, all over Asia. And then they ended up downsizing the team, changing the structure, and I ended up being laid off. They said that they would move me back to the States if I wanted to. So right after I heard on the phone, I told my wife the situation. I was like, what do you want to do? We were both like, yeah, we want to stay here in Japan and we want to make it work. And after that, it was immediately thinking about what the right path for that was. I probably could have found another job in that arena, but my heart was more into doing something that I was passionate about, and I wanted it to be close to home. And a big point for me too was making something that my children could see me putting all my passion into, being there every day, seeing me working with my hands. It made the decision a pretty quick one to say okay, let's find the location. Let's make this happen. Chiketo onegai shimasu. Arigatou gozaimasu. I had been living out here in Uenohara for about a year at that point. So it's a really diverse, interesting group of people living out here, and there's no movie theaters and really not that many art spaces in general. I just saw an opportunity there because the closest theater for us is Tachikawa, or having to go all the way to Kofu on the other side, which is quite far. Originally, I found the building through a friend of mine who owns a cafe that's in a converted kura. So she connected me with the people at the city. The process then was about a year of working together with the city. The first stage of it was that they wanted to make sure everything was fair and that anyone had a chance to rent the space. They had a committee of about, I think, 10 people or so who sat down and reviewed my proposal, and they opened it up to the community so anyone else who wanted to use the space could propose and potentially use it as well. And they had a whole rating system that they came up with so they could rate proposal as a group to see how much it scored. From there, it went to multiple other city meetings to ensure that everyone was on the same page. So I had to do an explanation in the Kairanban, in this pamphlet that goes with the circular, I guess, in English. There was a lot of people that were concerned about what it was going to be. They've never been to a mini theater or a smaller cinema before. I had to really go through and explain to them that this is going to be a small art house. I'm not expecting a large amount of traffic. And then thinking carefully with them, if there is traffic coming, that's not going to interfere with their daily lives. I made sure that I invited them all to the cinema after it was approved first, so they could come and check out the space, gave them free tickets and popcorns and things like that, so I could really make sure everyone was happy with it and comfortable. As a foreigner in Japan, since day one coming here, that I'm basically an ambassador for my country, and something that I have to make sure that I'm representing a whole population in the best way possible. Though when I've dealt with people here locally, even more so than Tokyo, no one's ever brought it up. They've never really asked about those things. And especially when I was looking for people to help me with the building process, we never really talked about where I was from or anything like that. We just kind of got into it and started talking. And it was just things like parking and the more logistical sides. But I never felt that I was like othered or anything like that. I think it was mainly more my personal struggle with the communication and figuring out the flow of things that was difficult. Also, I'm building something for the community. They see that I have my family that's in Japan and that we're really making a life for ourselves here. The goal of mine at Cineyama is playing content that is rarely seen elsewhere in Japan. The name itself, Cineyama, is a combination of the English from cinema and then Yama being mountain, and both being places where you can broaden your perspective of the world. And so I want this to be a place where people come and get to discover other cultures, different ways of life, different ways of thinking. And so it's trying to have as much outreach to a diverse crew of people.